Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Zachary Cole, and I am the Chief of Staff in the Office of Spiritual and Religious Life. And I'm here representing the Office of Spiritual and Religious Life and also the Graduate Student Government Association as we conclude our year-long series of religious holiday learning series, Lunch and Learns, for the 2020-21 year. We've worked very closely with the Vice Presidents of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion from the Graduate Student Government Association to pull this series together. In their role, the Graduate Student Government Association Presidents of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion serve as the point people for celebrations, issues, and initiatives relating to diversity, equity, and inclusion. They also function as advocates for university-wide issues affecting graduate and professional students. And we've just been so thrilled to work with that group all year long on this really amazing series. Today, we are really lucky to have a great panel lineup today and to be discussing sort of Hindu spring festivals. And I want to introduce our panelists before we begin, starting with Brahmacharini Shweta Chaitanya, who is the Emory Hindu chaplain. We're also joined today by Brajesh Sarmath, who is the instructor and coordinator of Hindu Urdu instruction. And then finally, we are joined by Anikia Maladi, who is a graduate student in the Graduate Division of Religion. So we just want to thank you so much for your time and being willing to share from your own personal experiences, as well as your academic expertise to talk about the Hindu Spring Festivals. So I'm gonna turn it over to Shweta to begin.
Thank you so much, Zach. And of course to the GSGA for putting this together. So hi everyone, my name is Shweta and I'm joined today by Alekia and Brajeshji. Thank you so much to both of you for being here. And together we will be sharing about some spring festivals that Hindus celebrate. We realize that there are actually a number of festivals that take place around this time that Hindus participate in. So for time's sake, we thought we'd share a bit about the festivals that each of us celebrate at home. We'll cover two New Year celebrations, so Guri Parva and Ugadi, as well as the very well-known and beloved festival of Holi, which just passed a little over a week ago. And so to kick us off, I'll go ahead and start with the festival of Guri Padwa. This is a New Year festival that has its roots in Maharashtra, India, and it takes place on the first day of the month of Chaitra. And so this is according to the sort of adjusted lunar calendar, Hindu lunar calendar. And so this day would come up on April 12th this year, or 13th, kind of depending on where you are in the world. The word Gudi in Marathi literally means flag, and Padwa is derived from the word Pratipada, which refers to the first day after a new moon. And before I get into more about the flag, which you can kind of see in my background, and the significance of that, I'll just share some of the different ideas that are attributed to the significance of this day. So in addition, of course, to celebrating the new year and to celebrating the arrival of spring and the new harvest, this is also seen by some as the day that Brahma, who is considered to be the sort of deity in charge of creation within Hindu traditions, this is the day that's considered the day that he started a new cycle of creation. Another story has to do with the epic Ramayana, the story of the deity Rama. And so in this epic, the Ramayana, it has, of course, many retellings, but in this epic, Rama is depicted as one of the main characters. And he is, for many Hindus, considered a divine figure, and in fact, an incarnation of Vishnu. So for some, this day marks the day that Rama returns home with his wife, Sita, after defeating the sort of evil king Ravana. And I'll just say, quickly that it might be interesting to note that this story is also attributed to the festivities of Diwali, which happen like around October, November time. So this is all to say that there are many ways that people come to the celebration of Gudi Padwa, both religious and non-religious reasons, but overall the theme that most relate to, I think, on this day is that of renewal, new beginnings, and sort of resetting for the new year to come. And the flags then are made are made to be seen as a kind of reminder of that theme. So I'll get into sort of what happens on the day. I'll share a mix of stories I heard from my mom, who grew up in Maharashtra, as well as some of the things that our family did here in the States. So preparations, of course, they start very, very early on with a sort of deep cleaning of the house. And once the day arrives, everyone in the house wakes up very, very early before sunrise, takes a bath, and gets dressed in very festive clothing. And then usually everyone will go out to the front of the house and decorate with Rangoli. And so Rangoli is sort of typically, it's a powder that's typically made from, I think, rice flour and maybe some other ingredients. But people use it to make these really intricate, beautiful designs in front of their homes for decoration. And if you're like me and you're not very skilled at doing Rangoli, then you're in luck, because there's some really great stencils that you can get that that'll produce somewhat similar results of the very beautiful Rangoli that you might see. So anyways, once that Rangoli is done, then that's when the making of these flags takes place. So as I said, this is sort of an image of what I have behind me of what these flags look like. So essentially it's a bamboo stick with a sari or a cloth draped at one end, like you can see there. And then there's a garland of mango leaves and neem leaves. And so this neem tree is a tree that produces this very bitter fruit, and its leaves are also actually quite bitter, but those leaves are also included there. A garland of flowers is also typically added, and a garland of sugar candy is also placed at the end as well. And this is all capped off with this round pot called a kalash. And it's usually also made out of copper or sometimes clay. And so each of these items, they do have some significance. And, I'm sure the significance differs from family to family. So I'll just share what I grew up with. The jewelry and sari are meant to invoke prosperity. The mango leaves are meant to invoke positivity, positive energy. The round kalash, the pot that you can see, that is really meant to signify wholeness and completeness. And then there's a combination of the bitter neem leaves and the sugar garland. And the significance of that is quite interesting. They both are meant to signify the sort of bitter and sweet experiences of life. And it's sort of this acknowledgement of the fact that the new year, it may very, very well bring in both. And so we can be reassured, because that bamboo stick is meant to then signify the sort of strength, balance, and care that can also be invoked to then uphold those two different kinds of experiences that life brings. So I've always really loved that little portion of the significance of the flag. And so that's just a bit about how these gudis or these flags are made. I remember one year, this was in Texas. I remember my family made something like 70 mini gudis, like 70 mini flags. And we really searched the shelves of Michael's and other craft stores to find what we needed. And eventually we did find some materials we could use, and we distributed those goodies to our friends and families. And so it was a really lovely, lovely sort of memory there. So to continue with the day, once the goodies are made, then they're tied securely somewhere in the front of the house. And then a small puja and arti are then offered to the goody. And both of those are just forms of worship. And then what's really special is that after the arti, everyone is given a special mixture to eat. And it's a combination of a few ingredients, but the main two are the neem leaves, those bitter neem leaves, and jaggery. And it's really only eaten at this time of year, but again, it's to signify an acceptance of the sweetness and the bitterness that the year might bring. And so that's the main part of the festivity. The rest of the day is sort of spent with family, friends, neighbors. It's really a time to be in community with one another. And I just wanted to share, there's this beautiful Marathi poem that like very nicely encapsulates the spirit of the day. So I'll just share like a part of it. It says, Sali gela sali geli adhi, ata padva padva, tumhi yera yera vari, lobha vadava vadava. And so essentially, I mean, it's inviting us to drop any grudges we might be carrying, grow as the year unfolds, and just invoke as much love in our hearts as possible for one another. And so that's Guri Padva sort of in a nutshell. And now I will invite Alekia to tell us a bit about Ugadi.
Hi. First off, thank you to Zachary and to Shweta for involving me in this conversation. I'm really excited to be sharing about Ugadi right after Shweta so beautifully described Guri Parva, because there's actually a lot of similarities. Yeah, let's get started. So Ugadi is also a New Year celebration. Ugadi is what we call it in Telugu. I've also heard it called Ugadi, which literally means the start of a new age. And it is, so I looked into this. It is the first new moon after the spring equinox, and it is the mark of the start of spring for the lunar calendar. And yeah, so we normally prepare for Ugadi just by doing an intense deep cleaning of the house. So it makes you wonder where the phrase spring cleaning came from, or so we clean the house, we decorate the front of the house with rangolis, at least that's what we would do in India. And, you know, on the morning of Ugadi, everybody wakes up, you know, has a shower, washes their hair, and wears new festive clothing. And these are all sort of staples of most festivals in Telugu households, but this is also how we celebrate Ugadi. And we also sort of decorate the house with flowers or with garlands of mango leaves, which are all sort of considered auspicious. So it's inviting auspiciousness into the house. And I think one of the biggest parts of Ugadi that is not found in any other sort of celebration is this Ugadi Pachiri, which you'll find people all over Telugu land sort of make on Ugadi. And it's Pachiri literally means chutney. It's the Telugu word for chutney. So what it's made of is it's made of I have the English translations of these because I did not know what these were, but bitter Indian lilac, sugar cane, some chilies, salt, tamarind juice, and green mango. And you would think that those don't make a good combination, but I assure you that they do. So you mix all of these, it makes a kind of like, yeah, it's a chutney, and you just eat it on its own. And it's supposed to, each of the ingredients in the chutney is supposed to symbolize the different sort of tastes or flavors of life, very similar to what Shweta was mentioning. So it's sort of a way to, you know, you will get the bitter parts of life and the happy and sweet parts of life, and you have to accept all of them as they come, in a sense. And so eating that Ugadi Pachiri is a really, like, we offer it to the god first, and then everybody in the house eats it. And so that's a big part of what makes Ugadi special. Another part of Ugadi that at least is sort of done in our household, and I can't say that, I don't know if it's done everywhere, is the sort of, you know, the starting of the new calendar, which we get in this like small book about this size. It's called a panchanga, and it's, you know, you open it on this day, on this Ugadi day, and you sort of put like kumkum on it to start an auspicious new year. And something I've noticed is that you'll have like these sort of people who are like astrologers will look at the coming year and make their predictions, or they'll say, this is what your year looks like for each of the sort of zodiac signs and stuff. So some people actually very intently listen to that and prepare for the new year. And and then the rest of the day is eating good food and spending time with family and anticipating the new year that's coming. Ugadi also marks the start of the 9 nights of spring. This is the Vasanta Navratri, and the other Navratri is the Sharad Navratri, which happens in the autumn, which is when it's the 9 nights of the goddess. So these 9 days are also considered really holy, and they culminate on the 9th day in the celebration of Rama's birth. So it's a Ramanavami. So you'll have people who fast through these days, or offer pujas or worships specifically to Rama in anticipation of his birth. So yeah, that's Ugadi in a nutshell as far as I have experienced it. I think one of my I didn't spend too many Ugadis in India. I moved to America before I really started understanding what it was. But I think one of the most prominent memories I have of Ugadi is putting that Rangoli, or watching adults, because I was a kid and I couldn't do it, putting that Rangoli in front of the house and making really beautiful and intricate, elaborate designs. Yeah. I'm going to pass it on to Brajeshji.
Go ahead, Brajeshji. I was just going to say, Alekhya, that Pachiri sounds amazing. I really want to try it. And I feel your pain with not being able to do Rangolis. So, but please go ahead, Brajeshji.
Well, thank you very much, Shweta-ji and Alekhya-ji and Zach. This is interesting, right? We're talking about the spring festivals, and then a lot of things are happening in India. And thanks for educating us for Ugadi and Guri Padwa. I didn't know much about this, especially about the symbolic meaning of a kalash. And then a pachuri, because you said that every aspect of your life, right? That's very interesting. So here am I to talk about Holi. It's a festival of color, it's a festival of love, and I also think it's a festival of equality. And I'll explain that how it is, like what happens on that day, that how it brings everybody at same level, and then they can enjoy it together. So it has 2 associations. One is Vishnu association, that is celebrating Lord Vishnu's victory over evil, Hiranyakashipu, a demon, a Rakshas, and then also Shiva, that how Shiva brought Kamdev, god of love, back from death. So there are 2. So in Shaivism and Vaishnavism, they celebrate it. It is celebrated in Falgun. That's a Hindu, according to Hindu calendar, it comes between March and April, if I'm correct, I think. And this is, so it is a festival of 2 days. The full moon, that's the day for Holika Dahan. So Hindus set up a bonfire, and when they set it fire, they just, this symbolizes with the death, or this burning, or burning of Holika. That's the sister of, she was the sister of Hiranyakashipu, the demon. And then the second day is a celebration where everybody is celebrating with colors. And when I said it's a festival of equality, that everybody is equal, it's my favorite festival because you don't need to buy expensive clothes. You don't need to clean before the festival. Definitely a lot of cleaning is involved after. So everybody, whether they, man, women, rich, poor, in India, where I grew up, it was also celebrated by the whole neighborhood, regardless of their religion. So it brings everybody together. There is no hierarchy here. So that's how people celebrate. Mostly they would smear each other with colors. They throw water balloons and throw water with water guns and play the whole day. You can play with friends and family, even with the strangers. I remember with my parents would arrange a dhol, a drum, and they bring everybody, their friends and family, and will go to each neighborhood, everybody's house, and playing Holi with them, and dancing, singing. And there's no hierarchy again, who is singing well and who is dancing well. It's just like set free and just, start dancing and playing music. And then the food will be offered. And the typical food is gunjia, that you can get it now from Patel Brothers Gokul. It is a stuffed pastry sort of thing with a lot of condensed milk and sweet. It's just, that's how I think you can explain that what it is. So that is gunjia, and people play until like 3 or 4, and then government will supply the extra water for 2 more hours, especially in government houses. And that's the time everybody is taking off their colors, because they play it with dry colors and also fast colors. And it's the whole process actually to take out your color. And then you're going and asking your parents, am I okay now? Because next day is school. So you're taking it off very well. And the evening after, when you take off your colors, you you wear clean clothes and go to your friends and families and get their blessings. So there's another thing. So that's in nutshell that how you play Holi for 2 days. There are a lot of stories are involved. My favorite story is about Hiranyakashipu, a demon. He was granted boon that he cannot be killed by a god, by a man or an animal, a human being or an animal, cannot be killed on land or air or water. He cannot be killed by astra and shastra. Astras are the weapons, projectile weapons, they can be invoked. And shastras, any, physical weapons. And he cannot be killed inside or outside. So it was impossible to kill him. And so he wanted to be the new god sort of thing, and a lot of atrocities are involved. His own son Prahlad was devotee of Vishnu, and he decided not to follow his father. And father wanted to teach him lessons, and in the end, he decided to kill him. So he asked his sister, Holika. Holika she also had a boon that she had a cloak or a sheet that she would wrap around herself and set in fire, and the fire would not destroy or harm her. So the both brother and sister, they planned to kill Prahlad. Prahlad was tricked to sit in fire, and then the fire was said that the cloak flew away from Holika and protected Prahlad, and Holika died. And that's the reason that we set bonfire and worship that as the Holika died, or burnt our evils and enmity and the feelings about other people, bad feelings, they should also be burnt in this fire. And then how this demon was killed, that the Lord Vishnu was born, or just like came out from a pillar. And then he took Hiranyakashipu on his lap. That means, and the pillar is in between, house was on the threshold, so it's not inside or outside. He was killed in his lap by his fingernails, and he was half animal, as like half lion and half man. So that's how he was killed. So all the things were taken care, and in the end, so that's why it's a festival of Vishnu as well. After Basant Panchami, there's another story. We have 1 more minute, I can finish it. That Lord Shiva, the Parvati was worshipping Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva is in deep meditation. And Kamdev, the god of love, wanted to help her. So he disturbed in Shiva's meditation. Shiva got angry and burned him with his anger. After that, Kamdev's wife, she said that my husband was just helping Parvati to bring you back in the world. And then she meditated for 40 days. And after 40 days, Shiva agreed and said, okay, I'll bring your husband back. And that's why it is celebrated. And that's why it is 40 days after Vasant Panchami, if you count all the days, and that's the day Holi comes and we celebrate Holi. Okay, we have 2-3 minutes. Shweta ji, if you want to add anything, please.
No, thank you both so much. And I think Brajeshji, the story you shared about the Hiranyakashipu and Prahlad, it reminds me, I know within our traditions, we always think about the divine or deity being able to find possibility in what seems very impossible. So that theme is so powerful in that story. And thank you so much for sharing it. And Alekia, thank you so much for really highlighting, like the day of Ugadi, what goes on and the celebrations. It made me hungry just hearing about the pachiri. So I'd love to get that recipe from you. I know we're really running up on our time, but I was just curious if maybe both of you very briefly could just share if you had maybe like a message to our Emory community that you might want to share just in light of the festivities that are going on. So maybe from like a perspective of celebrating Holi, if there's something, Brajeshji, for example, you might want to share with our Emory community, and Alekia from maybe having celebrated Ugadi or going to be celebrating Ugadi in the coming days. If there's just a message you'd want to share with the Emory community, short one about these festivals.
I think I see Holi, the significance is Holi is like inclusive. Everybody is involved and everybody is equal, and you don't need to bring anything to add to. You just bring yourself and enjoy. And I think that's a good message of Holi as well. And I think that's a community we want to grow here at Emory. And I think that's the most needed at this point as well. That there's no such hierarchy and everybody is included.
Thank you, Brajeshji. Alekia?
Yeah, just, Ugadi and the spring in general is the sort of renewal of the world that we inhabit. So just a hope for, renewal of hope and auspicious starts as this very intense past year comes to an end. Hope we have more sort of, auspicious, end to the previous year and start to this year.
Well, thank you so much. I see we've hit 12:30. It was really wonderful to have this chance with all of you to sort of speak on these different festivals. And again, my gratitude to you for participating in this. And I will hand it over to Zach to wrap us up.
Thank you all so much. I really appreciate it. What a fitting way to kind of close, Alekia, and just thinking about the end of the semester, the end of the year. Looking ahead, really hoping that our return to the Emory community, I know people are going to be tuning in from all over the world to this session, and we're looking forward to having these conversations online, but continuing to have them in person when we return to the Emory campus. So thank you all so much for your time. Thanks to our panelists for being here, for sharing your traditions with the Emory community. Thank you to the Graduate Student Government Association for your partnership. And then a final thank you to our audience for joining us for our last Lunch and Learn of the academic year. To see a recording of this session and of the other sessions in the Religious Holiday Learning Series, please visit religiouslife.emory.edu and click on the Programs tab. Thank you all so much and hope you have a great rest of your day.